And welcome to the Flightdeck podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football, presented by our good friends over at Royal Retros, where you don't need a time machine in order to get some sweet, sweet throwback merch. Head over to royalretros.com, use the code FlightDeck at checkout, and you will save 10% off your entire order. I'm Tim Capper. You can find me on X and Blue Sky over at Repact. That's REPPACT.
What's kicking, little chicken? I'm Cliffy D. You can also find me on X and on Blue Sky over at Cliffy D.
I'm going to have to ask you what that's from.
I don't know, it just sounded good. So.
Okay.
Doesn't always have to be a story. Sometimes it's just a greeting.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So, just in case if you come up to me, you shake my hand, and you say that, I don't have to look at you strangely.
No more so than usual.
So, how much bacon have we and have we calmed down? That's the if we didn't have a guest this week, that probably would be the title. Something about bacon.
Bacon makes it better.
About bacon. Yeah. But with the Elks coming to town, do have a friend of the like I said, a Canadian football podcast family member. Talking to superfan Mike Smith-Knutsen or it's the other way around. I got Mike's name wrong. Either way, superfan Mike from Turf District Podcast.
Yes, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure chatting with Mike. I
got it right. Mike Smith-Knutsen. I got it right.
There you go. No, always a pleasure chatting with Mike. Folks, if you haven't checked out the Turf District, even if you're not an Elks fan, you got to go check it out because, it's such a great, great show. These guys bring it every single week. It's always entertaining, always enjoyable, and so glad to have Mike come on and talk a little Edmonton Elks football with us. So, perfect for this upcoming game, and make sure you tune in for this.
For sure. So it's, if first of all, I know Cliff and I went into it in quite a bit of detail. I know one particular comment that we talked about on Flightdeck Live got a little bit of traction. And I'm sure as I said, we've had some time to think about it, reminisce, so to speak, see where the Alouettes are ending up when it comes to the guys that are currently hurt and won't be playing this week, and we'll get into that obviously in detail. But we got to go back, and still we have to talk about the game itself. A game where Owls lose by 28 points at home to Saskatchewan, which has never happened before between these two teams at home for the Owls. 6 points, least amount of points that the Alouettes have scored versus Saskatchewan since '74. Just overall in general, the game. It's funny. The most exciting portion of this game was the lightning delay and the little kids football. That's really it.
It was 80s night, so they played some pretty good music as well. There's that. We also got to hear the dulcet tones of one Eric Gaudette.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's going to be permanent or what's happening, but it was so good to hear him, the former PA announcer for the Montreal Alouettes who had left. But I don't know if there's
maybe a one-off or a two-off. That's what I did hear, by the way.
Okay. Well, listen, we'll take him as long as we can because, guy is just an absolute pro as far as getting the crowd hyped, getting the crowd excited. Few are better than he is at that. And I think the Alouettes, should have done whatever they could to keep him. Maybe they didn't truly understand the impact that he had on the game day experience, along with DJ Wordy Word, always playing like those perfect, music clips at the right moment for certain things. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
and Eric just bringing the energy, bringing the excitement to almost every play. So
He was
I
going hard, I will admit. A little bit harder than normal, but he was still going hard. It was nice to I agree with you, it was nice to hear his voice again.
definitely was. So I mean, if you're looking for positives, I think that's about it. And Jose Maltos Diaz, of course, with not
Oh,
one
yeah.
but two long bomb field goal kicks. Sadly, those were the only points that were scored by the Montreal Alouettes this past Saturday. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what what a game! I think the best way to describe it would be belt to ass, because
Okay.
that's exactly what Saskatchewan did. And listen, we were about to talk about all the injuries that have occurred with the Alouettes, and the 6 game list is looking longer and longer with each passing day. But Saskatchewan's had their fair share of injuries as well. The only thing that they truly had going for them was Trevor Harris just playing out of his mind football. I mean, to the point where I'm sitting there going, how come the Alouettes didn't have this version of Trevor Harris when he was on this team? Like, this is the Trevor Harris I think that they were trying to sell to us, but ultimately the Alouettes never got and never had playing for them. I mean, this was the Trevor Harris that in 2019 with Edmonton came in and just carved up this Alouettes team like a Thanksgiving turkey.
Yeah.
I, I mean, this is the Trevor Harris that has just been dazzling everybody this year. And it's not pretty football by any stretch. Like, he's not blowing people out of the water with his incredible stats, although that's where people will go no matter what. But I mean, he's been playing some outstanding football, and this being his first game back as a member of the Saskatchewan, back to Montreal as a member of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, I think he had this kind of penciled in his calendar as well, and he showed what he can do when given the opportunity and given the chance to play. And again, I'm still baffled. Like, this is the Trevor Harris that Joey Alfieri used to like to come after me for not praising as the Almighty. I mean, this is like I got no words. I mean, hats off to
It's
Trevor. He did the thing. He played outstanding football this past Saturday, and Montreal simply had no answer for him.
no, I think I'm quoting it right from the CFL and their game notes this week. Trevor's had 11 straight games of throwing, having a completion percentage of 70% or higher. 11 straight games.
Oh yeah, that's the
Sorry,
that's the stat
sorry,
that
sorry. 11 straight starts. Sorry.
that's the stat that everybody gets all tingly about. It's like, ooh, completion percentage and all that. The real stat that matters though was wins and losses. And yes, this year Trevor Harris and the Saskatchewan Roughriders have a lot more wins than they do losses. And give them credit. They've been doing it all year, and they certainly did it to the Montreal Alouettes. And it was not pretty to watch, ladies and gentlemen.
No, no, it's not. The other positives, if you might as well go ahead in that route, was just over 21,500 that showed up and stayed despite the weather delay. It was a rainstorm that was not projected.
Hmm.
I'm curious to know which weatherman's going to get fired. Actually, the weathermen usually have the most safest jobs here in Canada, anyways, because
If you don't like the weather, wait
uh,
10 minutes.
yeah, didn't see that coming. Um,
What I find is really remarkable, though, is there was also a weather delay in the game in Edmonton earlier in the day. Like, how fast can an electrical storm pass to go from Edmonton to Montreal in the span of what, 2 hours or something like that? Is that even possible? Is that like if Neil deGrasse Tyson is watching us or something? Like, can you explain this to me like I'm 5 years old? Like, how did this electrical storm appear out of nowhere to cause a delay in this particular game? I'm baffled. I truly am.
yeah, Owls lose 34-6. Dropped 2 games behind the East leading Hamilton Tiger Cats, which are also hot too.
Are they ever?
I mean, I understand again, and I think by the end of the year, I'm gonna get tired of hearing it. Once again, it's thank God it happened now, not in November, but it's the Owls record last year was what it was, Cliff, and we had a ton of people on the 6th game. A ton of people throughout the year, and we still did well. And mind you, we started off 10-1, and the team did falter for the second half of the year, but still, um, I just don't know where to go with this because we're coming into this game, which we'll be talking with Mike about. Coming into this game where these two quarterbacks were on opposite ends last year. John, it's just one was on the other team, the other was the other, and I don't know. It's funny. We've been so resigned to the fact of how bad the Owls usually play in BC that it's like second nature now.
Mm.
But yet, a game like this, there've been very few games like this that Alouettes Nation has seen at Percival Molson since the team has been back since '96. Very few games like this. A couple come to mind. Menzel game, obviously, that came to mind. There were others.
Oh yeah.
Why was this different? Why is Alouettes Nation and local media treating this one different than any other game?
I think it's because we've been sold a bill of goods when it comes to McLeod Bethel Thompson. And I'm not going to say he was the sole reason why the Alouettes lost this game. Far from it, because this defense too didn't come alive like they normally should or could or would. Yes, they're banged up too, but as I said, you can't really use injuries as an excuse because every team has injuries. Every team has star players that are on the 6 game or the 1 game list. So you can't even begin to use that as an excuse. I mean, I look at the secondary and Trevor Harris just stretched the hell out of them. I mean, he was just making passes that probably had no business making, but just absolute backbreakers and basically just having his way with his defense. And his O-line was giving him great protection. I mean, he wasn't playing, like that gunslinger type of football. It was very much the dink and dunk offense that we've come to expect out of Trevor, with a couple of really nice passes thrown in there just to spice things up. Whereas McLeod Bethel Thompson tries to play that dink and dunk style, and he does all the things that I used to get mad at Trevor Harris for doing when he was a Montreal Alouette. Holding on to the ball too long, not making any reads, getting absolutely stymied by the defense of the opponent. It's just terrible decision making. This play calling, I feel it's very vanilla. Again, I understand it's not the same quarterback. No one's ever going to confuse Davis Alexander from McLeod Bethel Thompson by any stretch, but it feels like he can't run. If he can't run Davis's offense, then I guess you go back to the basics. But you're not going to beat Saskatchewan by kicking field goals, and that was made very painfully clear this past Saturday. But with everything that's been going on with McLeod Bethel Thompson, and all this talk after the Calgary win, which I'm sorry to say, but it really came across more like the Alouettes defense won that game versus Calgary versus MBT. Just getting the guys getting the team into field goal range and letting Meltos do his thing. And yet he's talking about trying to chirp the TSN panel. Well, how did that work out for you this past Saturday? I mean, it's got to be frustrating. It's got to be frustrating for Alouettes. Yeah, it's got to be frustrating for Alouettes fans and everybody in general because when the Alouettes traded for him, there's no question Cody Fajardo could not have stayed in Montreal, and he would have wanted to have been the backup. It would have been too much of a distraction. I get all that. So you trade for MBT, who has CFL experience, has won Grey Cups as a starting quarterback, blah, 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 blah. All the stuff we've been talking about all year when it comes to him, trying to justify why he is on this team. But when you turn in a performance like that, it makes it so hard to truly justify it, to even come to rationale. I mean, there's having a bad day at the office, and then there's that. I mean, that was just uninspiring. And why the team, why they didn't go with Caleb Evans, except for like he was in for 2 series, basically two and outs, and then they put him back in. So my first thought was, okay, well maybe they're saving him for the next game. Like they want to make sure that Evans doesn't get hurt, because it looks like they're going to maybe go with him. But all indications are saying that no, it looks like it's going to be MBT yet again. Which, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results each time. It's easy to see why Alouettes Nation and everybody has to be wondering what the hell is going on, because everything we're seeing from this team so far is just head scratcher after head scratcher. And it's I got to be honest with you. I mean, I don't want to hit panic button too soon, but at the same time, can we really afford another 5 weeks of watching this kind of football from the Montreal Alouettes? I hate to say it, but I mean, you got to do something, and something quick, as far as I'm concerned.
No, I agree, and we've gone through the whole MBT we trust, which is what it was in week 3. I just don't remember a quarterback where, I know Alouette fans have gone through so much when it comes to quarterbacks, especially when we were bad from 14 to 18. All those quarterbacks that we went through, some were good, some were not. Some were brought in just based off of their pedigree. I hate to tell you, does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
It really does. And I understand when it comes to injuries, you can't do anything about them. But MBT is being paid what he's being paid for his past, for his history, for being a leader. He's still, whether people agree with if it means anything, unlike baseball players and pitchers in baseball having their win-loss record, it is a thing in football. He's still an under 500 career quarterback in the CFL. And
you know what?
I get
It's like the old saying: "You are what your record says you are." And what's McLeod Bethel Thompson's record as a starting quarterback in the Canadian Football League? Not great, not bad. I mean, yes, as we stated, he's won games. He's led a team to a Grey Cup, but since
28
then,
and 36.
sorry,
28 and 36.
There you go. I mean, under 500, as you said. Since winning that Grey Cup for Toronto back in 2022, he has not looked anywhere close to being a Grey Cup winning quarterback. I'd say the only thing the Alouettes are going to be, with him as quarterback, the only thing the Alouettes are going to be winning is the first overall draft pick next year. That's really what it feels like right now.
Yeah. Again, it's for a team that came off such a needed win in Calgary to lay this egg. And I know we, as a media outlet, we've made our thoughts known about what we would hope would happen this week. Looks like it's not going to happen that way, at least to start. Others have done for it too, so it's not just us. And as I said on Flightdeck Live, which go watch it, by the way, if you happen to miss it. Danny will stand behind all of his trades. I think we've already said that, and I agree with you. I think it would have been weird to keep Cody here, and we're basing it off of what. I mean, we could be, if Davis were still in and he was having some rough patches, okay, we wouldn't be being the same. We probably wouldn't be talking the same way.
Mhm.
But it's just that you bring in somebody, you're paying MBT what you're paying him, and right now, he's 1-3. So
And could easily be 0-4. Could easily be 2-2. I will say there was one game where he did he looked a lot better, that second game versus BC, and it wasn't because of him that the Alouettes lost that game. There was other mitigating circumstances that caused the Alouettes to lose that particular game. It wasn't MBT, but ultimately, this game he has to own this game. He has to be 100%, culpable in this. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. I'm sorry to say, he played a very terrible game. He, as you said, regressed. He looked worse than he did against Hamilton, against BC, even against definitely against Calgary. I mean, like, their MBT looked solid. He looked good. He did some really nice things. I mean, wasn't lighting up the scoreboard, but put the Alouettes in position to win. Whereas from the get-go, from the very first drive, this Alouettes team was chasing its own tail for the better part of 4 quarters, and there's just no answer. I mean, the obvious answer, of course, would be, pull him out. It's not his game. It happens. Better luck next time. But they kept going back to him. They kept trying to let him see if he can figure it out, see if he can work past it, and it wasn't happening. And that's the part that I have a very hard time with. I mean, everybody has a bad game. Everybody has a bad day at the office. Everybody has a bad day, period. The fact that this
we've seen quarterbacks get pulled for less.
Oh, we sure have.
I mean,
maybe going what, 2 for 4 and then getting pulled.
Yeah.
If you know. I mean,
if you know.
I mean, you talk about a short leash. I mean, that's like a millimeter. I mean, McLeod Bethel Thompson has a leash that's like meters long. It feels like we're not even talking about the same thing here, but this is it's really something.
His lumber, his it's as long as his beard is bushy. But that's also a topic for the preview, which we'll do. How big will that leash be? So, and we don't want to talk about this until it gets old, but it's the current thing, and we are currently in that stretch. Yeah, I think we're about hopefully halfway through that stretch where Davis is going to be out again in that 6 games, and I'll make it clear that I would be happy in this 6-game stretch, at least if it is just 6 games before Davis comes back. The Owls went 3-3. I have no delusions of grandeur. No delusions of grandeur.
No, and I think that's reasonable, all things considered. And again, it's not necessarily a knock on whoever the quarterback is, but I don't think it's such a tall task to ask for. But like I said, if you were to go strictly by that one game this past Saturday, it's understandable why everybody's hitting panic. It's understandable why you got someone like me who's practically begging the team to go with Caleb Evans. I mean, for so many reasons. But like I said, I think we have enough of a sample size right now of what to expect out of McLeod Bethel Thompson. And to think he's just going to magically wake up Friday and just become the next Tom Brady, that's a very big ask as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, would it be different if Mac had not gotten hurt, because him and MBT had a nice repertoire before he got hurt in Calgary late in the game? But then again, he didn't throw much to Mac in the second half in Calgary. Who knows? But it's frustrating just to look at again. We understand injuries happen. It's just frustrating to look at the injury report right now. Let's try to talk about some positives here, and let's see if we can perk things up a little bit before we talk to Mike from the Turf District podcast. The Owls again. To me, this is a new stat for me, and as I mentioned, I mentioned this on the post game show. But the Alouettes themselves, I mean, first and foremost, they gave up 418 yards. People also need to remember too that that they didn't give up more than 300 yards of passing. They did not. That's the type of game that this was. Second downs to me has been a huge thing. Even though Saskatchewan was at 38%, the Owls were at 25% for the day on second downs. To me, that's a new stat that needs to be, that I think really needs to be that you have to concentrate on. But MBT went 15 to 26 for 126 and an interception. His weekly, I should not have thrown that interception. It should have been more, by the way. It really should have been more.
Oh yeah,
Maybe the ball was wet for the Saskatchewan defenders.
Well,
But
what's the joke? A defensive back is basically a wide receiver who can't catch, and that's what a couple of these guys were. They definitely could not catch that ball, and thank goodness, because you're right. MBT, there's at least 2, maybe 3 picks that the Riders should have had that was practically gift wrapped for them, and they just let it fall to the ground. I'm like, wow, okay, like that's incredible. I mean, if I was a defensive coordinator, I'd be just a little bit ticked off. Like, what are you guys doing out there? Like, that's a gift. That was a gift. That was a horrible throw that you should have punished this guy for. Instead, you let it fall to the ground.
Yeah. 2 guys led the team in rushing this week. It was both STE and Travis Tice, 20 yards apiece. But obviously, where the game was at, I'm not surprised. But yet, they kind of didn't give away. I mean, it's the first game in a while that we haven't had over 10 attempts in a game. Came close. Tice at 6. STE had Tice at 7. STE had 6. Leading receiver for the Alouettes was Tyler Sneed. 7 receptions, 88 yards. Up next to that, it was in Cole Speaker with 29, and then this Cliff. Travis Tice with 9 yards, SDE with 2 yards, Regis Sivasu with 4. That's it. That's it.
And didn't Alexander Hollins get a target, but ultimately nothing?
Yeah. And not a single one, by the way, either to Charleston Rambo. So the big plus, obviously, it was Jose Maltos. He's now kicked 3 straight 50-yarders. Going into the game versus Calgary, an Alouettes kicker had never kicked a field goal over. Had never kicked a field goal over 55 yards. And now he's done it a couple of times.
And again, the only one who's actually scoring points for the Montreal Alouettes this past Saturday. So, man, a well-deserved player of the game for the arm. But
Yeah.
that in itself, like that. I mean, I guess if you're looking for a positive, that means special teams was doing something right. If your field goal kicker is, going 2 for 2 from 50 yards plus, that's good. But you're not going to beat. I remember thinking you're not going to beat Calgary just kicking field goals, and ultimately they did. You're definitely not going to beat Saskatchewan kicking field goals, and they sure did not. So
no,
the complete lack of offense and more or less lack of defense as well ultimately is what sealed this game. It had nothing to do with Jose Maltos. If anything, as I said, he's basically if Jason, it's not his style so much anymore, but if Jason Moss just wanted to tear a strip off of everybody, I would have just went to Jose Maltos Diaz and said, you know what, go outside. I have to talk to these guys. You are not a part of this. And just read them the riot act. It it's disheartening. I think that's the best way to describe it, is disheartening to see
Oh
such
yeah, yeah.
performance. I can handle losing. I get, sometimes it happens, especially a hard fought game. Someone has to win, sometimes has to lose. It happens. But this was just a complete lack of effort. This was an embarrassment, Tim. I mean, this is
Was.
trying to find, we're trying to find positives here, and there's
Yeah.
a couple very tiny ones, but by and large, this is not Grey Cup winning football. This is not championship football. This is throwing your season away kind of football. I mean, it
No,
is.
no, I won't go that far. I won't go that far. I mean, there are again, despite the last couple of weeks, Cliff, the Alouettes are still at 47.7% conversion rate on second down because they've had 2 bad weeks. And they've only had 29 2 and outs. That's it. That's pretty damn good considering we know where Edmonton is. And I think there's one team that's worse than that. I think it's Ottawa, I think.
Would make sense.
So,
I mean,
but
you're right. I mean, in a sense, it can't be all doom and gloom. Yes, the Alouettes are still in second place, and they've built up a bit of a cushion between Toronto and Ottawa. But I mean, if you're trying to keep pace with Hamilton, who, by the way, last week it took a major effort for them to get past the same Elks that are going to be coming to Percival Molson Stadium this Friday. You're trying to keep pace, at the very least, keep pace with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, if not establish yourself as one of the better teams of the Canadian Football League. And yes, when this team is completely healthy, they are arguably the best team in the league. But I guess it just goes to show, with those injuries in place, I mean, there's a lot of glaring weaknesses that are being exposed right now, and that's the part that's concerning to me.
And let's talk about those before we talk to Mike here. There were some injuries. Marc-Antoine Decaul went out with now what we know is a shoulder injury.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, again, Justin Lawrence is out again with a knee. I don't know if it was the same knee was the other. I think last year, the year prior. I don't remember if it was the same knee or not. I feel bad for him. Again, where it was caving into it was a late scratch. As we talk about on Flightdeck Live, is that it's not just as simple as saying, well, Capian's out, put somebody else in, because of the way that the ratio is in the CFL. They had to do some shuffling. They did a good job. I think they did do a good job shuffling. It's just what they had on their roster. And because of that, they did sign some more people, but we will talk about that once we finish with Mike. So before we do get to that interview, yeah. Before we get to that interview, though, I mean, is there any last things you want to say about this? Because, like the players, we've been stewing on this for a couple of days. Obviously, players are already into their getting ready for Edmonton, so we can finally burn the tape. Is there any last things you want to say about this game versus Saskatchewan?
Well, nothing good. Let's put it that way. But you know what? I think it's over now. It can't be changed. It's unfortunate, but that's kind of the beauty of the Canadian Football League, or football in general, is there's almost always a game next week. There's always another opportunity to go 1-0, to redeem yourself for what's happened. And if it does truly end up being McLeod Bethel Thompson getting the start again versus the Edmonton Elks, I hope this was a lesson for him. Like, whatever he's doing wasn't working. Find that quarterback that you used to be. Find that quarterback that took the Toronto Argonauts to the Grey Cup in 2022 and won the game. Find the guy who has proven to be a very solid, capable player in this league, and bring him out. Bring back the McLeod Bethel Thompson that played a solid football game in Calgary and got the win. Again, with the help of the defense and Jose Maltos Diaz, of course, but he still did his part too and did it very well. God willing, that's the McLeod Bethel Thompson we will see this Friday at Percival Molson Stadium against Edmonton. I don't think he's that type that wants to show up his former team. I mean, how could he, to tell you the truth? But I'm sure he's going to want, if he's not, jacked up for this game, if he's not inspired to play against a former team like this, then, I mean, what are we even doing here at this point? I mean,
yeah. as we mentioned, we got the Elks coming up, and we felt what better way to bring in somebody who has um, have opinions of their own, because we know they've been going through some things themselves. But we felt to get get a kind of a preview on what it's like from the Elks' point of view. So, without further ado, we're going to be bringing in Mike Smith-Knutsen from the Turf District Podcast.
Friday night football, Elks, Alouettes, Expos night. So much going on in this particular game, and in order to help us kind of navigate through some of it and talk about what's been going on out in Elkland, we are so thrilled to be joined by our pod brother in arms, if you will, joining us from the Turf District Podcast, the one, the only, super fan Mike. Mike, once again, welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck.
Thanks for having me, guys. Great to be on again. Always great to be talking football. It's been a tough half decade or so, but you know what? We still love the sport. We still love the league, and I'll still be going no matter what.
And listen, you know that we'll always be there watching as much as we can and participating in the chat. Which, by the way, folks, if you haven't had a chance to check out Turf District when they go live, do their live stream on Tuesdays, usually Tuesdays.
Yep.
You got to do it because it's just a blast. It's just so much fun hanging out, chatting with some really great folks, and just just shooting the breeze, having some fun. I mean, that's as you said, talking football. It doesn't get much better than that.
Absolutely. I mean, we've always said that the CFL is the most accessible league anyway, so it's great when the fans can sit around and talk. I always say that I'm a CFL fan. I just cheer for Edmonton because it's the league we all love. It's this version of the game that is sort of captured our imaginations, captured our hearts. And when you can find other people that's part of your football family that you can enjoy talking about, regardless of who they cheer for, they're sort of family for life, right?
Absolutely. And the fact that we've been to Edmonton, tailgated with you there, you've come to Montreal, even, and your co-host Andrew is going to be your co-host Andrew is going to be coming to the game this Friday, so that's going to be very cool. And I mean, whenever the three of us get together, it seems like shenanigans always seems to come about, doesn't it?
100%. I still have seeing a game at Percival Molson on my bucket list. I've been there now, thanks to you two. It was definitely something I will never forget. I can promise you that. But one of these times we've got to actually go there, see a game. I mean, the view alone is incredible. And obviously the Montreal Edmonton rivalry has been going on for 70 plus years, and it's never a dull game.
It's crazy to think. And it's funny how Montreal and Edmonton always seem intertwined in so many aspects of Canadian football. I mean, whether you're talking about the rivalries, the Grey Cup matchups, trades even happening between the two teams. Like these two, it's kind of like the Batman and the Joker. And I don't know who's who, but I mean, it's just that sort of, rivalry, but in the sense that they can't kill each other. They'd be incomplete without each other, right?
Two sides of that same coin, 100%. Although I think we must be the Joker because they always tell me EE stands for the evil empire, right? So,
green.
Exactly. I mean, come on, we're not wearing any purple, but that's all right. I mean, I'm an old, so I've been around to see the second rivalry between the two teams in the 70s and the 80s, well, 70s mostly, and then of course the early 2000s was just killer between two of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen to play this game. So I'm hoping we get a fourth round.
That'd be cool. I would not be mad to see an Elks Alouettes Grey Cup again sometime in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I don't see it being this year necessarily, but stranger things have happened.
Very true. Very true. I mean, I always say, like, games don't really, the season doesn't really get underway until Labor Day. And, we've got a few weeks before that happens. So, just never know, folks. So
that's true.
I mean, hello, BC Lions.
Right. I was just going to say 0-7.
BC Lions did.
Yeah.
So it's funny you're talking about, how intertwined these two teams are. I mean, even head coaches, even general managers. I mean, it's
true,
and quarterbacks too, and it's more so that year than anything else because, the off season, uh, Cody Fajardo was traded to Edmonton.
Right.
MBT was signed as came over in a trade
In the
also,
trade,
and we
yeah.
got his rights, signed him as a free agent. And I don't think either of us expected, based off the off season, that we would see both of these guys uh, starting this week in this matchup, considering the future in Trey Ford, and same thing with Davis Alexander. But that is what it is, and I think it's going to make this rivalry game. It is, to me. It's a rivalry game. I
Sure.
don't care what they say. It is a rivalry game. Don't the CFO? Toronto Hamilton. This is a rivalry game, just based on the history itself. But I said I never expected both these two quarterbacks to be starting against each other this week in Montreal.
No, I mean, when you looked at the schedule, you assumed it was going to be the two hot young quarterbacks going into the 2025 season. And it almost seems poetic that it is the two quarterbacks that were traded for each other in the offseason, between MBT facing his old team, Cody Fajardo going back to Montreal. If you were going to write a script, this is maybe how you would have written it. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch from that perspective with that storyline. I'm hoping that both quarterbacks rise to that occasion and have lights out games, and we get maybe a bit of a barn burner. Dare to dream.
Well, I got to say, I mean, since Cody Fajardo's essentially retaken I guess he's essentially taken over now as starting quarterback for the Elks. I mean, he's played some very, very solid football behind center. Considering what the investment that the Elks had made in Trey Ford, and now you've got Cody Fajardo basically leading the charge. How do Elks fans feel about, do they feel like they've been, a bait and switched a little bit when it came to this, or is it just simply a matter of, I don't care who's throwing the ball as long as we're winning or trying to win a game?
I think it's a lot more of the latter. The first game, or certainly before that first game that Cody started, having Trey, I don't want to say unceremoniously demoted, but for a lot of fans, they are very much Trey Ford fans. He's an exciting guy to watch. Personality-wise, everyone loves Cody. I mean, I don't think he's gone anywhere where the fans don't adore him. He's just got that kind of personality. Maybe not always on the field, but it's just, you have two very likable quarterbacks, but one guy was really hyped as being the future of this franchise. And I think a lot of people now are maybe saying, was it Trey, or was it maybe Jordan Maksimic, the offensive coordinator? But Cody's really taken it and risen. Like, even in the last game, 17 straight completions to start the game, good for 8th best in the history of this league. He went 20 for 25 in the last game for was it 250 some odd yards, 257, I think. He did have the interception, but I mean, not bad numbers at all. And I think that because of that, fans have really warmed up to him being the starter and not just the mentor for Trey.
I agree with you on that one. I mean, and it's almost the same thing that you come, with Montreal. I mean, it's, Davis Alexander has come in. He's, somebody that Cliff and I I've watched from day one in Trois-Rivières, and look what he's done with his career. I mean, it may have been not, your traditional way of starting, but he now is tied for the best start in a career for a quarterback. And it just seems to be that for him, he's just been sidelined. But then you bring in MBT, somebody who, as I said, came over from Edmonton, was basically living what Elks fans were going through last year. Was it Trey? Was it MBT? Was it? And unfortunately, for Owls fans, when you look at how each of these two quarterbacks did for their former teams, Cody did a hell of a lot better. I mean, we were talking about, before we started the interview tonight, I had forgotten that, Cody was, I thought it was better. I mean, but Cody was 16-11-1, won the Grey Cup. MBT was 3-10 and currently has only won his last 4 of 17 games.
Wow.
So there's really not more. You have to, I understand stats are not always the case. That I get,
Yeah.
and that you can see is, how well-ish he played in Calgary to get that win. But I'm sure all of us have wondered how a quarterback can go from one extreme to the next to be so good one game, or good-ish one game, and then just to be totally inept, what seems to be totally inept the next. And I'm sure, as I said, it really throws a very interesting wrench into this matchup, doesn't it, Mike?
It does. But McLeod took a lot of flack in Edmonton last year. But it wasn't that he had a terrible year. I mean, he had 24 TDs to 11 interceptions, had 3,700 plus yards. It wasn't him that was losing these games. So even though his win-loss record isn't necessarily great, wins and losses aren't a quarterback stat. And there's a reason they're not, because our defense was atrocious last year, which is why they overhauled it this year so much, which apparently didn't work as well for us. But what are you going to do? But MBT has won a lot of games. He's got a Grey Cup ring as well. Now you could say that, he was injured in that Grey Cup game, and it was Chad Kelly that came in and replaced him and took them to the win. But he still is won a lot in his career, and I don't think that you can really say it's based on him. Now I know that last game maybe was not the best sample for that one, but he certainly played some solid games where he had some great games out of it, and they didn't win in Edmonton because that defense just couldn't seem to stop anybody. So I think that saying that McLeod might be the poorer side of this trade, I don't know. I think we haven't seen the last of McLeod Bethel Thompson winning some games.
Well, he's definitely had his work cut out for him, for sure. And, I made the argument last week on Flightdeck Live that, okay, his first match against Hamilton kind of thrown into the fire because, again, while playing in Edmonton, Davis Alexander pulls up lame, goes on the IR for a couple of weeks. That first game against Hamilton, you can sort of, pardon it a little bit because it didn't look like he had, rhythm right away with his receivers. The game against BC, came very close to winning that game, but other factors were the reasons why they lost the game. It wasn't as opposed to him. And
it wasn't bad stats in that game either, right? I mean, he had 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And the game against Calgary, where he did play, I mean, one can make the argument that was basically Jose Maltos and the Alouettes defense and knocking out guys like Vernon Adams, Adrian Green, and Damian Alford, the game that ultimately led to the win.
Right.
But last week against Saskatchewan, he's got to own that.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry to say, but that was completely on him. And maybe the play calling, just for some reason, he seemed to have just regressed, and I'm baffled as to why.
I wonder if it's one of those kind of games where things just aren't going right and you almost psych yourself out of it. Because, again, we've watched a lot of MBT in Edmonton over the last few years, and it just didn't seem like before. He's a very calm and rational guy. He's very spiritual. And it seems to be very good at just sort of centering himself, getting himself in that zone. But it just seemed like nothing was working for him in that game, and it was really painful to watch. Is that his future? Like, did he fall off a cliff that rapidly so soon? Or is it just an anomaly and he's going to go back to the game before he was 75% passing? Maybe that's what we're going to get again in this game. I hope so for the fans' sake, because, again, I want to see 2 teams slugging it out and making it entertaining. But a little part of me hopes he's, going to repeat from last week. I got to be honest.
Which is fair. Is fair.
Thanks for coming, Mike. See you later.
Yeah. I mean, let's just look at the team's records between the two of us, right?
I know, but as I said, I understand what you're saying, that quarterback records, it's a made-up stat. I get it.
Sure. But
still, Cody is above 500 quarterback, and MBT is not.
Right.
Despite all of his accolades. Yep. But I think for us, though, really in this game, it is more than just the quarterbacks. I mean, that is one of the part of the storylines itself. just for recently, it's just the Alouettes. Last year, the Alouettes, I think at one point, please correct me if I'm wrong here, Cliff. I think we had 14, I think it was 14 or 15 guys on the 6th game at once
Right.
last year. This year, we were doing well in the first 3 games. Davis pulls up lame, and then now, all of a sudden, everything seems to be coming to a head. I mean, everybody says, it's a good thing it's not November. I get it. But still, just the amount of people that are currently, and it's a mixture of offense and defense, big name guys that they've signed to big name contracts that are hurt. And I'm sure it's frustrating for Alouettes fans, but then again, it said this is something that the Elks could easily, just by looking at film, try to take advantage of it as best as possible when they meet each other on Friday.
Yeah, and again, when we start seeing the names that were coming, it's not just the number of names, it's who those names are that are on those injured lists, because these are big names, especially receiving core. Like some of your best receivers, yes, you still have Snead, you still have Speaker, but like when you're losing some of the top receivers, especially the guys going into this season, and they're not there, and then MBT again, maybe not playing as well, it might be tempting for Edmonton fans to get their hopes up once again. But so far that hasn't panned out for us so well. Although the schedule gods have not been kind to us, because it seems like everyone comes back from injury just in time to play us. This will be kind of a first for us, but I don't know. We're flying 2 time zones over. We're playing a team that is playing in front of their home crowd. They have a lot to prove after the last week. There's nobody at Edmonton that is really thinking, no, we got this one in the bag.
Well, if they did start thinking about that, you couldn't blame them based on the past couple of games. I mean, it seems like Edmonton has come so close, and I'm almost pulling off the upset against Saskatchewan and Hamilton, but just coming up just a little bit short. Like, do you feel at times like this team is just snake bitten when it comes to things like this, or is it just simply a matter of, just not having that right combination?
I think it's also weird. I mean, and we bandy this about a lot on our show, that we are the youngest team in the league by age. And we just haven't learned how to win in the fourth quarter yet. You don't see a lot of aggression from our DBs. You don't see, I mean, how many sacks do we have on the season with that vaunted front four that we, more or less lifted right out of Toronto? It's just, it seems like you have to learn how to win, especially in that fourth quarter, because we were tied going into the fourth in the last game. And we just don't know how to do it, because the other teams are a little more experienced, have been playing together a little longer, and seem to be able to pull that out in that fourth quarter against us, even when we've been leading at that point.
Yeah, and I was thinking back too, because we were talking about injuries too and stuff like that. And I think Cliff, I said this too when on that Flight Deck Live. With Mac going down too, when we're talking about big names, big receivers, MBT and Mac were basically, they were buddies in that first half for versus Calgary, and then he started to spread it around to everybody else, the Speaker and to Snead, et cetera, et cetera. So, from what you've seen, how well has Cody been able to really gel with some of the wide receivers that the Elks have?
He actually was talking about that after practice today and yesterday. Obviously, the chemistry should be pretty strong with Keon, Julian Grant having their time both in Montreal, another name that's going to be very familiar to Alouettes fans. Last game was an absolutely terrible drop at the end of the game, which likely could have been a touchdown that won that game for us. It's just, again, that I don't want to use snake bit. It just, again, we haven't learned as a team how to win that. But man, you got to catch those. He's slowly building.
Cole Speaker. Hello,
Yeah,
Cole Speaker.
100%. 100%. That was another one. But I think because Cody has now had this is only the second game he's had since having the full starters reps in practice all week. Short week in this case, but and I think he's improving as we go along. The question is going to be, is everyone going to be firing at the same time? Because if you're not, Alouettes will take you apart regardless of who's suiting up for them on the starting roster.
And this is, I think, where we're going to see a lot of the depth because, again, Edmonton's got their fair share of injuries as well.
Sure.
I mean, it's not. I mean, yeah, Montreal's I think might be a little more glaring because of the names that are on that list. But I mean,
right.
I mean, did I not see Nick Anderson and Zach Mathis also being added to the injury list? I mean, it's
correct. Yeah,
those are two very exciting players that the Elks have, and they will not be in Montreal. I mean, Edmonton too has their share of injury woes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Devondrick Bynum, one of our corners, he's been alternating between corner and defensive back, as well as we just found out today that Royce Metier, our starting safety at the beginning of the year, is going to stay on the 1-game list again. Yeah, it's really tough. Mathis is one guy that we were really high on coming into the year. You can't coach 6'7" height. It's one of those guys that when you're going up against the 5'11", 6 foot DB, and you have a 7 foot height range, not to mention your arm length, that's a hell of an advantage. And we were starting to see that when he got hurt. But you can't really blame injuries. But man, when you start seeing so many starters injured, you start wondering, would we have had a chance if we would have had just a couple of those guys suiting up today?
It's just about testing that depth, I guess. I mean, for
100%.
both teams, really.
Yeah,
not for sure. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, it's
the GMs earn their money.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, the Owls bring in some guys that have been, I guess, basically we can say that Danny told them to hold up.
Yeah,
we'll be calling you because that's kind of what it's been over the past couple of years, and to bring back a player like Seante Evans, who was an integral part in their Grey Cup championship. It's funny, you see some of these guys who've gone down here, and it's just a matter of, some of them are having good seasons, some of them weren't. I think
sure.
Cliff and I have talked recently about how off Marc-Antoine Lacroix has been since that Grey Cup year, and maybe it's just a chance for, as I said, as Coach Moss would say, next guy from the
Next guy up. Yeah.
Yeah. So the hanger. Sorry, I keep on doing it. Next guy in the hanger, as he puts it. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it can be a very, very interesting too. I mean, overall, I know we've talked about both the offense, what we've seen on players wise, and on offense and defense here, guys. I mean, what do you, Mike, have you seen that really has been an Achilles heel? I mean, something that we'd seen before that we were talking about pre-interview. The Elks have they have, what is it? They're 2 and outs. The 41% are 2 and outs this year. They're 8th in the league. That's 41% in anything is bad, especially when it comes to 2 and outs. Despite Cody coming in and throwing, I think he's averaging 300 yards a game since he's been a starter. What else has kind of been an Achilles heel for the Elks?
That fourth quarter, without question. Again, we've seen it many times before. All of a sudden, our offense can't do anything. If you looked at the Saskatchewan game, Edmonton played 2 games ago. End of the game, we have the ball. I mean, you don't ask for anything more than that as a fan or as a player. And on the last 2 plays, Cody's sacked back-to-back. And it's just such a killer and takes the wind right out of you. Last game, again, we're tied going in. Hamilton's able to march down the field and score that touchdown. And now we were up by 3. Now we're down by 4. So now it's a touchdown to win. You can't get a field goal to tie it up. And that just really takes it out of you. And then again, we have a dropped ball. It just seems like we do fine in those first 3 quarters. And that lightning delay really would have helped us in the last game. Because if they would have called it, then maybe we'd end up with a tie instead of a loss. But yeah, the second down, to me, it almost feels like it's unimaginative play calling, because it seems like in the stands, we can predict what's going to happen next. It's first down. They're going to run the ball. It's going to be in the A gap or the B gap right between the tackles. And if we can figure it out, then I guarantee the defensive coordinator, the other team, and the other players also can figure it out because they've watched a lot more film than I have. So they know that first down is going to be a rushing play, and then if they can stuff it, then Edmonton's going to drop the run. We played in Saskatchewan. They had, was it 3 rushes total between our running backs? No, 5 rushes in the entire game between our running backs. That is not a recipe to win.
Just like Montreal against Hamilton, dressing not 1, not 2, but 3 running backs.
Right.
And your quarterback, starting his first game in 2025, has more rushing yards.
100%. I don't get it. Again, they know way more about football than they've forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. But it does seem really weird. And like you said, the 2 and outs, the unimaginative play calling in that fourth quarter just really seemed to be something that we talk about on our show week after week after week. And it's time we got something new to talk about, something maybe a little more positive.
Yeah, I gotta change that broken record, unfortunately.
Yep. Hopefully soon.
So you take a look at this game, and I mean, Mark Killam, he has definitely been a big part of this cultural shift in Edmonton. Yep. I know it's a relatively small sample size, but I think enough games have been played now. You kind of have an idea of what his coaching style is and his philosophies and such. Is he the right man for the job in Edmonton?
I think it's really tough to say that now, just because if you look at the last 5 years, which was 5 years of futility in Edmonton, we've had a lot of head coaches in that time. I mean, Jason Moss obviously gone at the end of the 2019 season, pre-COVID. We had Milanovic come in. He didn't actually see a single game because COVID happened. And then we're switching over to Jamie Elizondo. And then we have Chris Jones. And then Chris Jones let go. And it's just, you need continuity. I mean, you look at someone like Calgary, which makes me ill just to say. But they've had the same sort of people at the top between Dave Dickinson, obviously, and how long has he been there? Because he was quarterback coach in 2007, 2008. So we're talking 18 years he's been in that league. Mark Killam was with that team 19 years. Like, that is continuity going for a long time, and it's paid off. Winnipeg was going to be letting O'Shea go. And all of a sudden they started winning, and they won, and they won. They got the Grey Cup and won. Continuity is something you can't replace. I thought Jason Moss was letting him go was a huge mistake. Clearly that's proven to be the case because he's a brilliant offensive mind. Anytime I talk to any of the players, and these are players that have been playing for many, many years, they said, it's like I know nothing about football and I'm going to school all over again because it's just that impressive, his offensive schemes and everything else. I think we need to give Killam some time. I would hate to see any sacrificial lambs made from that, but when you see the attendance dwindling in Edmonton like it is, something has to happen. I don't know what else it's going to be other than wins. So me personally, I say give Killam at least this year and maybe next year. You have to start seeing improvements.
It's true. I mean, as much as we talk about not wanting to change a broken record, at the same time, you're right. You got to have that consistency. You got to take your lumps too. And that's the thing with a first-year head coach is there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some adjustments after doing special teams for years upon years. And now all of a sudden he's the head honcho. Right. Yeah. There's definitely going to be a seismic shift in your philosophy and how you approach things.
And a first-year DC as well. JC Sherritt, this is the first time he's been the man on defense, right? He was a positional coach last year. And really, he hasn't even been a positional coach that long in the grand scheme of things. So it's not just Killam. It's some of the support people he has with him. But do Edmonton fans have the patience to ride it out and hopefully see it being paid off? I remember 2013, we had a new head coach. We had a new GM, a new head coach in Chris Jones the first time. And we went it wasn't Chris Jones in 2013. But it was a new GM in Ed Hervey, and we went 4-14. Probably the worst season we'd had in forever. And then the next year we were 12-6 and made it to the West Final. The year after that, we won the Grey Cup. But it was just that continuity and allowing and not just making all these changes just to make changes at that point, keeping that core the same and building on it. And you can see in a 19 league, you can see a turnaround very quickly, but you have to be able to allow them to build that 1, 2, 3, 5-year plan with the existing staff.
What have you heard from what it's like in the locker room? Because everybody talks about, or it seems to be a big thing about, how good is the locker room? Despite what the players have gone through recently, and with many of the players that we've spoken with, Mike, everybody still believes in what Coach Moss has
Sure.
brought to the team,
As
and
they
they
should.
love what he's teaching.
Yeah.
What have you heard, or what have Elks fans kind of got the idea? Like, what is it like for Killam's locker room?
They're solid. Every player we've talked to off mic, just sitting around talking, says, no, this team still believes. Killam always had a reputation as everyone loved him, like all the players, because as a special teams coach, you're talking to offensive guys, defensive guys, because everyone's playing on special teams. And these are guys that would run through a brick wall for him and still will. They still believe that they're building something. They are improving week to week. You are seeing those changes happen. Maybe it doesn't happen on the win-loss chart yet, but it is helping. It is happening both in practice and in the games where, okay, you know what? Our defense is playing better than it did the game before. Still hasn't been enough, but again, you're playing the two hottest teams right now between Hamilton, who had won 5 straight, and Saskatchewan. And to take them both to within the last minute or two of the game, that's saying something for a team that is going into the game at that point, 1-4, 1-5, now 1-6. So they tell me that they all still really believe in it, and you can see it's not really lip service. I think they really do love him, because I've seen when players don't believe in a coach. We've seen it recently in Edmonton when players had been let go, and we're not seeing that here.
It's going to make for a very interesting game on Friday.
I can't wait.
Before I let you go, Mike, what's the one thing, in your opinion, that Edmonton has to do to get the win, other than basically survive the fourth quarter?
I think we need to have an offensive plan that is going to not be so predictable, not going to be too vanilla. It doesn't have to be trick plays. It just has to be something where you can't guess what's going to happen on first down. You can't guess what's going to happen on second down. If you're 2nd and 6 and you're running the ball, which we don't do, we're only running the ball when it's less than 5 yards on second down. Maybe that's going to catch Montreal napping, because they're looking for tendencies, because they're going to study a lot of film, and maybe that's going to do it. But I always say, no matter what, if you win in the trenches, if your offensive line's better than their defensive line and vice versa, then you're going to win those games way more often than not. So I need to see something out of our defensive line, which is getting paid a lot of money that we bought in the off season. If they can start really rattling MBT, getting to him, making him throw early, maybe getting some sacks in there, then our defensive backs are going to get those interceptions. And, maybe if last week was because it just wasn't happening for him and he was off his game, maybe we can put him off his game again this game.
Be hard to argue that. That's one thing. And there's a little part of me that was kind of hoping that you can hurry MBT to throw the ball, because I find he's been holding on to the ball way too long.
Yeah, well, we know what that's been like too. Again, we just had a game where our quarterback got sacked 8 times. So,
I remember Cody getting sacked numerous times
everywhere he's been.
Yeah, I remember the Owls leading the leagues in sacks given up against Cody.
Yeah.
God, what is it about Cody that people just want to just put him on the ground? He's a good guy. But
he is a really good guy, but maybe that's just it. Nice guys finish last. I don't know.
I guess.
Yeah. He took blame right after the Saskatchewan game, said at least 4 of those were on me because I held on too long. So that's got to be it. It's just got to be he's holding it on just a little too long. And you see it when you watch the film. He's like looking and looking and looking to find which receiver. It's like, just trust your instinct, trust your game plan, and just go with those reads, even if maybe something better might be happening. Let's just get some first down. So take it.
And he's not afraid to tuck it and run. I mean, I've said it numerous times. Fajardo is a Latin word for run for your effing life.
Yeah, exactly. Let's have a little FYJW.
There you go.
You know, if anyone's going to do it, it would definitely be him because
man.
I definitely think there's going to be a chip on the shoulder. I definitely
Sure.
think
I do too.
he's got to be looking at this game and said, you know what, I get it. Football's a business, all that good stuff, but he really did want to retire as an Alouette, and that didn't happen. So I think he's, I won't say with bated breath wanting to play this game, but I definitely think he's very excited to take the field on Friday.
He's got a little to prove. He's got to show him that, you know what, you guys made a mistake letting me go.
Yeah. I brought you a great cup. Yeah, well, what have you done for us lately?
That's right.
Would have been even more interesting if Davis had started.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, it's intriguing. It's because these two quarterbacks were traded essentially for each other. That is intriguing in and of itself. Yeah,
sure.
Imagine if
the learner versus the prodigy versus the master. Sure.
Exactly. That and Davis has said he's learned an awful lot from Cody Fajardo, and I believe it. I mean, that's look, proof's in the pudding. I mean, he's been having an outstanding season thus far when he's on the field. So I'm sure Cody Fajardo has a very big influence on him when it comes to that.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're gonna see.
Exactly. Right. I was gonna say, so obviously we've known you for a while, but if anybody hasn't seen or heard you guys over at the Turf District podcast, where do they find it, and where do they find you on socials?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, anytime you want to sit and talk football with us, we're always around. It's the Turf District on almost all the socials, as well as I'm at 56 Parkies. It's one of those names that, you know, maybe in retrospect wasn't the best idea, but yeah, find me anywhere at 56 Parkies anywhere, and you're going to find me. Sit around, message me, sit and talk football. Tell me why I'm full of hot air. Tell me why I'm wrong. That's fine. But as long as we're talking football, I'm happy.
Can't get much better than that. Mike, thank you so much for joining us here on the Alouettes Flight Deck. Looking forward to a great game on Friday. May the best team win. I think that's the only thing you can truly say at this point.
It's true. Absolutely. I can't wait. I'm sure we'll be chatting either during or after the game, no question. And no matter what, friends on during and before and after.
To quote your co-host, absolutely.
Nice.
I mean, the Elks are going through the same thing, you know, very similar things, but we are, you know, quarterback situation, that type of thing. And obviously it's not an injury on their part, but, and I know that for the Elks, it is, you know, somewhat similar, but kind of really not. But I mean, it's still nonetheless, there are a lot of storylines for this game coming up. And Mike was pretty spot on with a lot of them.
Without question. Yeah, I do kind of feel, though, like these teams are both trending in different directions. I feel like Edmonton is, despite, you know, still losing games, they're at least in the fight. They're showing that they can do it. They're showing that they can, you know, make the comeback and make it exciting and really make the other team earn their victory.
Mm-hmm.
I would love nothing more than be able to say the same thing about the Montreal Alouettes. I mean, again, against Calgary, they showed that same fight. Last week, not so much. So I really want to believe this last game against Saskatchewan was just a blip on the radar. Here's hoping, but it's going to be a very interesting matchup, and I'm glad Mike was able to share his thoughts and his perspective of things out in Edmonton and what they're going through. It's definitely going to make for an interesting game. There's no question about that.
That's true. And hey, you got to listen to a guy who has such a sweet man cave. I will admit, if anybody was wondering behind him, that was not virtual. That was all Mike in his collection. Buttes, really, really nice. I loved it.
They don't call him super fan for nothing, because my goodness, that is quite the collection that he's got going. And talk about to the point where he's even considered a historian of sorts in Edmonton, as far as, you know, cataloging and showcasing all of that memorabilia from close to every decade that the Elks have been around. The Edmonton football franchise has been around. It's
even prior, which is cool. So
it really is.
I would say tune into one of their shows, and when he shows some of his their segment where he shows off some new merch. Check it out; it's pretty cool. He showed us something tonight while we were both in pre-show, which was pretty cool. Considering how old the item was, that was pretty neat. Before we talk about, it was kind of a positive that I thought about. I wanted to get more information on it. Before we talk about the changes in roster and stuff like that, I at least wanted to mention Cliff, and because I know you and I talked about it slightly, and we really more or less saw it post game. But we talk about how the crowd have been getting larger now at Personal Molson. I think they're expecting quite a large crowd this Friday also. But the Alouettes are trying to find new ways in order to give a little bit more of an experience. And as everybody has seen, you have your VIP seats, you have the loges that are on the field that are near the main entrance, and then you have the ones that are over near Section Z, which are the all-you-can-eat stuff that are literally their field loges. Well, the Alouettes introduced a new one and I got some more information on it, just at least pass it along if anybody's interested. It's the Lounge 425. And what I did find out, Cliff, is that they repurposed a former television, I don't want to say stand, but where the TV cameras go for the TSN and RDS broadcasts.
Platform? Platform?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, there's a word that's coming in. It'll come to me after the show. Either way, so they repurposed one. So Lounge 425. It's kind of similar to what the other stuff does that they do. It's a hospitality space. Anybody, I think they showed some pictures on some showed up on social media somewhere. But it's a space for hospitality space for only 10 people. But you get nice, comfortable seating. It looked like fake grass. It's funny, fake grass and nice seating. It's okay, not bad seats. But for the price of the ticket, you get 2 beers or seltzers included per person, and you get the view. So it's $169 a person plus taxes. Now, one thing I did find out for others, like, well, I can't get 10 people. I mean, that's we're talking $1,700 here. Any of them that aren't sold, the team puts them on for sale right before the game. So get your money ready, Cliff.
Could be interesting. Could be an interesting way to see how the other half live, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I've sat in the loges before, the boxes. I'm not a fan of them. Just see what these are like. And maybe you and I have sat in press boxes and stuff like that for games, and to each their own. You and I are not really end zone people. We'd rather be right there in the action.
Yes.
Still, it's an idea. Check out the Alouettes website. I want to thank Brian Waitman for the information. At least let everybody know that there is a new experience available for Alouettes fans and Alouettes Nation.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that there, as we mentioned prior to the interview with Mike, there are some injuries, and the team had to do something in order to replace them, or at least try to help. So the Alouettes did announce some new pickups. And I will admit, I don't know what your thoughts are on these, but I will at least mention them. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was pretty funny, but the Alouettes did bring back Don Callis. Or Callis.
Yeah. Yeah. The Don Callis that plays football, not the professional wrestler, because he was also
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah. They also brought in Caleb Johnson. Mm-hmm. A linebacker out of Miami. They brought in Brandon Dandridge.
That's a name I'm very excited about, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Former Ottawa Red Black, played extremely well too with Ottawa. I don't know if it was just injuries that caused him to kind of lose a bit of a step, and ultimately for him to let him go. But if he can pick himself back up and get back to that same form in Montreal, that'll definitely be a major help, especially with, as I've talked about before, the secondary right now is extremely banged up. So if Dandridge can come in and help out this secondary, this is a shrewd move as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. And lastly, a name that Alouettes Nation will know about, Deontay Evans is back in the fold.
Yes. Very happy about that because, yeah, you talk about an absolute baller. That is Deontay Evans. And is this his third go around with the Alouettes?
Yep.
Crazy because, yeah, I remember him coming in. I think it was in 2019. He signed as a free agent in Montreal, played some outstanding football during that, team that just came out of nowhere and just blew the doors off of everybody. If I'm not mistaken, he signed with Hamilton
23. Yeah. Then he came back in 23. I think that whole quote unquote free agency during the COVID year was really weird in itself.
It was the same one that led Scott Milanovich to be undefeated as Elks head coach.
Yeah, true. But
and that's undefeated in the same way the Atlantic Schooners are undefeated.
There you go. It's nice to have again. He was in shape. He actually was close to his post-football career life. I know I think there's a story today about this in local media, I think. But I'm curious to see what happens because we've already seen who's practiced and who hasn't, and we might as well go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off of this one. Is that based off of the injury reports, we can say the following, Cliff. Cabinento is out with a calf injury again. Tyson Philpott, Cliff, is out again this week with a hamstring. What's that you say, Tim? Didn't you say last week that it was a knee? Why, yes. Yes, I did. So are you saying, Tim, that they changed his designation? Why, yes, Tim. Yes, yes, I am. So it's now a hamstring.
That's quite the misdiagnosis, in my opinion.
If that's what it was, I'll leave it at that.
Better that
James
way.
Letcher, as we know, is out with a broken hand. Austin Mack is out again with an ankle injury. And by the way, this positive is that he was on the sideline this week at the game along with Davis Alexander, but Mack was in a walking boot, a soft cast, and crutches. And I saw a thing on his Instagram too that it must be bad enough that he was puttering around in whatever store he was in one of those electric scooters.
Oh boy.
So
you can't be too careful. So I'm not gonna.
No, I agree. I agree with you on this one. Marc-Antoine Dequoy with the shoulder. Now we know what it is out. Justin Lawrence is out with his knee. Deontay Ruffin is out with an abductor, and Katie Davis is out. So the signings were necessary.
Yeah, that's the thing. Help is on the way. That's, I guess, the best way to describe it would be help is on the way because this Alouettes team desperately needs it. As I talked about, the secondary right now. I mean, all those guys like Ento and Dequoy, and that's alongside of Najee Murray, and now Deontay Ruffin. I mean, those are essentially that's your starting lineup more or less right there and then. I mean, oof,
yeah,
not easy, but.
No,
that's why you have to make these moves. I mean, you have to realize what needs to be done, and hopefully these guys are only going to be like missing one game as opposed to being put on the 6-game list. But your depth was tested this past Saturday, and I'm sorry to say it did not pass the test. So you got to make those moves, and that's exactly what Danny Machocha does. Is he works in silence more often than not? Kind of, people sometimes wonder, what's he's actually doing, but he's making those moves that will help replenish this team, and they were desperately needed without question.
Plus is Najee Murray is available. He practiced all week.
Okay. Well, that is
That's a
definitely a
plus.
positive.
Yeah, that is a positive. Kind of hinted at it in the first segment of the show. How much of a leash does MBT get this week? Or what do I think it should be? Because obviously we were wrong, and but I said it looks like MBT is going to start. At what point will it be pull? Because I honestly thought that MBT was not gonna start. The way that Caleb was throwing after halftime and after the break, I thought Caleb was coming in. That wasn't the case.
And I'm still baffled as to why not. I mean, I get to a degree trying to let your quarterback dig himself out of the hole that he's in, but also too, when you're in a hole, you stop digging. I mean, there's also that to consider as well. And when we only saw Caleb Evans for 2 series last Saturday, we were wondering, okay, well, maybe they're saving him. Maybe they've seen enough. Just let MBT get through this game and hopefully without injury, and give the keys to Caleb. And what's the worst that could happen? Again, I don't need to remind you people that Caleb Evans is undefeated as a starting quarterback for the Montreal Alouettes. So starting him makes all the sense in the world as far as I'm concerned. Whereas there was nothing this past Saturday that suggests that MBT deserves another chance to get it right or figure it out. I'm sorry to say. But ultimately, that's how it's going to go. That seems to be the way right now. I think barring injury, that's the only way you're going to get MBT off the field is, you're going to have to literally knock him out and take him out of the game. As far as the leash goes, I want to say that it's going to be a very, very short leash, like to the point where if he looks at Jason Moss cross-eyed, boom, out. That's obviously not going to happen. But at the same time, though, like, how many mistakes are you willing to let MBT make? How often are you going to let Edmonton's defense get in his kitchen and rattle him and force him to hold on to the ball too long and make mistakes and not get his reads in and so on before you say enough's enough? I mean, what's the Mendoza line here for this? Because as far as I'm concerned, I would truly go with the young quarterback, the young mobile quarterback who plays very similar to Davis Alexander. He could probably run Davis's offense. Or I would feel a lot more confident of him running the offense much more so than MBT. They're just different style quarterbacks. Maybe this is that kick in the butt the Alouettes need to get back on track, to get back to winning games. But instead, more than likely it will be MBT again, and I have to truly hope against hope, maybe, but it has to be a short leash on MBT this Friday. I mean, especially Cody Fajardo is coming into this game. I don't care what's being said in the media or anything like that in his interviews and whatnot. There's no question in my mind that he's looking at this game as like, oh, I'm going to show you MFers. You let me leave. I wanted to retire in Alouette, and you got rid of me for this guy? Nah. I'm going to show you. And like, this is my team now. I'm not giving it back so easily. And I'm going to show each and every one of you in Montreal what you missed out on. And I couldn't blame him. I wouldn't be able to blame him if that's how he felt. He'll never say it publicly, but this is the same Cody Fajardo that felt disrespected at the start of 2023, that the Alouettes were supposed to be this absolutely terrible team. And what did he say? F you, just watch. And look what happened. Yeah. Look what he was able to do. Just that little bit of bulletin board material, that little fire being lit under him. That was all it took. I would not be surprised if he's got a raging inferno. By the time he takes the field on Friday, he may just have that little raging inferno inside of him. And he's going to let it out in the form of great passes, incredible runs, touchdowns. Anything's possible, but when it comes to Cody Fajardo, it would not surprise me one bit to see him going into this game just a little bit ticked off at the situation before him and wanting to make Montreal pay for it.
Yeah, I the whole if you just watch thing, I'm just so afraid Cody's going to go off. MBT needs to start. If he's, I think they need to get things going. They need to get the running game going. They need to be able to use, have a balanced offensive attack. You got to stay in this game. Stay away from the 2 and outs. Get as many yards as you can. Touchdowns, touchdowns, touchdowns. This team needs touchdowns, and I kind of agree with what Mike said earlier. I hope for a shootout. I hope for a shootout, but we'll see. But then it goes back to our question: whatever's going to be the what's going to be where will the line be drawn? I mean, let's put it this way: with everything that's happened with the Alouettes, the line itself for this game's gone from 4 points just yesterday to now 2.5, and for favor of the Alouettes.
And I'm sure a
That's
lot
how
of it
much
is. I'm sure a lot of it is who's playing quarterback for each team. That's ultimately deciding that. Let's not forget, Cody Fajardo, though, the past couple of weeks, even though the Elks lost, he went down fighting. He brought this team close to the comeback. Came up a little short, but that's football. It happens. But he's able to do that. And you got to believe if that happens again, if Montreal somehow manages to build up a sizable lead, it's not going to be safe by any stretch. Not when Cody's playing the way he's going to be playing. And he's motivated for the reasons I just stated. I the only thing I can hope for is that Montreal just finds a way to set the tone early, as we talked about, just punch them in the mouth and don't stop until there's zeros on the clock. Because this Edmonton team, I think, is far better than what their record indicates. I think they've got... They're desperate to win, and they've clearly decided now, we're not worried about the future. We want the now. We want to win now by any means necessary. That's why Cody's the quarterback. And if Montreal's not prepared for that, then this is going to be a very, very long night at Percival Wilson Stadium on Friday.
We're on social media. You can find us anywhere, any of the podcast aggregates. You can also find us over, that'll be at, the archive will be at www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. The shop is at flightdeckgear.ca. Grab some merch. Come on. A couple of ideas coming up. We're also on X and Blue Sky at Alouettes FL Deck, Facebook over at Alouettes Flight Deck Pod, Instagram and YouTube over at Alouettes Flight Deck. Speaking of YouTube, you can find the full broadcast version, the audio version, and our post-game show, Flight Deck Live, which is broadcasted after every Alouettes game, whether it be on the road or at home, like it will be this week.
That's right.
So we will click.
Win, lose, or draw, we will be on the field sharing our thoughts on this game. Hopefully good, possibly bad. How will it turn out? Only one way to find out. Hit that like button, subscribe, make sure you're following, hit the notification bell. It's as easy as that.
And again, thanks to our presenting sponsor, World Retros. If you use the code FlightDeck at checkout at worldretros.com, you will save 10% off your entire order. Tim almost forgets the ad read. Damn it, Tim. Come on. By the way, you'd think that maybe if the TSN panel does say something bad, quote unquote bad, about MBT, maybe that'll put a little bit of a fire under his butt. Did it in Calgary, supposedly.
Well, that's it. And you know what? If it does and he ends up playing the game of his life, like, I'm a firm believer in talk your bleep, but you know what? Maybe not. Maybe don't. Maybe not this time. Maybe put together a winning streak, and then you can talk your junk. Okay, that's because again, I didn't bother going back to look, but did the TSN panel have something to say about MBT after that game? I would have, especially after he called them out. I'm like, that blew up in his face pretty quick, unfortunately.
I don't know if he did. I don't know.
I mean,
there are reasons to go to this game, anyways, dude. You and I both know this. Besides that, you get some former players from News and More. They'll be there.
Yeah,
Expos, baby. It's Expos night.
Expos night, and yeah, lots of players from back in the day, including Andre Dawson. I mean, dude. I mean, that's pretty huge right there. I mean, definitely a chance to pay homage to the heroes from yesterday. So that's very cool. I know a friend of the show, Morley Scott, was a huge Expos fan. I'm sure he's gonna. I wouldn't be surprised to see him leave the broadcast booth, go all the way down to try and meet those players from yesteryear. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, yeah, and they have quite a few players there. I know they're partnering with I think it's Expos Fest, the very well known group here in Montreal behind that.
Yeah, basically keeping the memory of the Montreal Expos alive.
Yeah. And supposedly there's a banner ceremony. We'll see. We'll see. It's too bad Vladdy Senior and Moises Alou couldn't be there. We know his dad doesn't travel, so.
Or even Larry Walker, if you want. This is a CFL game, the Canadian Football League. The guy is Canadian.
Yeah,
absolutely would love to see Larry Walker back then. Gosh,
and they got some limited merch. I will admit, and I know we don't give them that many props but I will admit the boutique this year and the management have been putting out some pretty cool stuff. So, and there's $3 hot dogs. What better than an Expos thing and $3 hot dogs?
That's it. It's too bad though. We won't be hearing remember back in the day at the Big O, cold beer, Fwad.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Hot dog showed.
There we go. Yes, sir.
Popcorn may souffle. It was always bilingual. Back when it was okay to do that here in Quebec, but I'm not gonna. I'm not stepping in that one.
But you digress.
I certainly do.
Yes. So but, again,
but also, sorry, I'm just gonna say, all indications, as you talked about earlier, is it won't be quite sold out, but well over 20,000 are expected again this Friday. So I'm looking forward to another, hopefully, electric atmosphere. If you haven't got your tickets yet, by all means, do so. I mean, again, it's the Elks, it's the Alouettes, it's a great rivalry. It's Expos night, $3 hot dogs. I mean, what more do you want? People want? Get out there and go support your team. Damn it.
100%. 100%. Again, stay tuned for all of our socials for any information that may come out, including the time for Flightdeck Live. But it will be right. It will be after the game, anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes once the clock hits zeros. So we will be looking forward to seeing each and every one of you for the post game, whether it be on X, YouTube, or Facebook. And if not, we'll make sure that we do see you next week on the show, where we will go over what happened at Percival Molson versus the Edmonton Elks. So, for Cliff, I will see you in stadium, cheering on the Alouettes. And for everybody else, thank you for joining us this week. So for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.